My guest today is an award-winning writer, producer, director, actor, and an entrepreneur.
I just want to make sure our lighting is, we can see your face.
Face!
Because when you're right under this, it's going to create shadow on your eyes. Baba, this is what I do for a living.
I know, so many freaking things, man.
Do you want me to say the rest? Entrepreneur, business owner.
And an all-round awesome chick.
You better keep that.
This is How Do They Do It? I'm Kevin Abdurrahman. My guest today is Pega Baemi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Thank you. I don't know if I can live up to all the stuff that you just said.
Of course you can. Your story starts with you and a vacuum cleaner.
Oh my God, yes. How did you know that?
Tell us about that.
Okay, so I guess you could say my story started when I realized that I can face my fears.
Mm.
And there was nothing more frightening to me than the vacuum cleaner when I was 3, 4 years old. You know, it roared, it sucked everything up, it followed you wherever you went. And after many fearful days of watching my mother, you know, I would run around, I would sit on the couch, I would climb the walls just not to be on the same.
Hiding away.
Yeah, I always hid away. And one day my mum said, "Come." And I was like, "No." And she said, "Come." I was like, "No." And then when she turned away and she started vacuuming the other side, I ran and I jumped on that vacuum cleaner and I wrestled it. And it was like,
I'll give you a tackle.
yeah, and I was like, I own you, you know. And then every single day after that, when my mom vacuum cleaned, she didn't do it every day, but every other time that she vacuum cleaned, I sat on the vacuum cleaner. And that was really the first time that I remember really facing my fears and knowing how to conquer something that I was afraid of. And my mother reminded me of this story not long ago after I went to Iraq and all this. And she said, "You're that same girl that tackled the vacuum cleaner," which to me was a big monster. It was a demon, it was a devil. So, yeah, and this continued. And this mentality, I guess, continued. And I do try to tackle the things that I'm afraid of most.
Was it a reminder she gave you when you were facing a fear?
Yeah, it was after I'd come back from Iraq.
Okay.
After she saw I Am Yazidi, she said, "I can't believe you went through all that."
But then she goes, it makes sense, you're the same kid
Yeah.
who went and tackled the vacuum
The
cleaner.
vacuum cleaner, yes. It's weird to think that your story starts with a vacuum cleaner and you're a woman. It's a bit wrong, but it really did start with it. It was scary. It was horrifying. I mean, when you're a kid, you know, some kids are scared of washing machines, like Home Alone, you've seen
Right,
when
yeah.
it's afraid of. For me, it was the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, we all have these fears, and unfortunately, perhaps not everyone deals with it, or they do deal with it when they're kids. You know, we tend to be fearless as kids. Then unfortunately we grow up, which is the reality, right? We grow up, life experiences bashes into us,
You pack a lot, yeah.
and then you become this fearful person. When in reality,
Suitcases
yeah, most kids, when you
full
look
of
at
fears.
them, they're fearless. Then they grow up, life happens to them, and they start becoming fearful of many things. Have you had fear ever stop you from doing what you want?
Many times, yeah. I think many times. But it's something that you have to face. So you have to think, okay, I'm afraid, for example, to go for this job, or I'm afraid to. I still have a lot of fears. I think we all do. I think fears sometimes are not a bad thing as well because they can keep you safe. So
Yeah.
sometimes we were, for example, in a territory where I knew that the crew and I were unsafe. And just by, you know, an inkling, I would say, okay, guys, let's just pack up and go.
Sure.
And then we would realize that, you know, something threatening was not far away.
But that's fear in the sense of protection,
Protection.
self-preservation.
Yeah.
Protecting
Oh,
yourself.
you mean fear of success?
But
Because that's a big fear that everybody has.
yeah, you know, the thing is, what many don't realize, like, you come across as a courageous person. You are a courageous person. But people mistake courage with not having fear.
Yes.
Not
It's
real.
not true.
It's not
I'm
true.
a scaredy cat. I'm scared of everything.
But kind of like the vacuum cleaner, right?
Yeah, I'm scared of
So
dark, I'm scared of people, I'm scared of lots of things.
what makes you tackle, I want to get into your way of thinking. So what makes you decide, okay, this fear is
It's
there,
worth fighting.
but I want to go and face it, or I want to go fight
Yeah,
it. What are you thinking?
I think it's, when I was going to Iraq, I mean, this is just an example, I secretly said goodbye to everybody in my mind. I kissed my family goodbye, because I didn't know where I'm going or how I'm going to come back. But my Iraq story, you feel that your fears are minuscule compared to what can come out on the other side of it. And in 2009, when I decided to make this film, when I decided to go to Iraq, I had no idea that in 2016, the head of BBC World was going to approach me and say, "Can you make this story with us?"
Mhm.
So I really just followed my intuition, and I realized there is a story, or there is an event, or there is a reason bigger than my fears that pushes me to face my fears. It's a challenge for myself, but it's also something that's bigger than me. And I think that as humans, we always need that something that's bigger than me. Religion, bosses, work, projects, money, whatever it is. Sometimes you use that to force you to challenge yourself and understand yourself. And I guess in a way, film does that for me.
Mm. You're doing what you love.
One of the things I love, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you just fall into it? How did you get into it? I mean, you write, you produce, you direct, you act. Did it just fall into place for you?
No, never. It was never. First of all, the first biggest barrier I had was my own family.
Okay.
Who were like, "What? You are equipped to be a lawyer, a doctor, well, not a doctor, but they always said you should be a psychologist or a
You
lawyer."
might be Australian, but you're still Persian.
Yeah, exactly. So, so the first thing that I did as a kid was what was available to me was a pen and paper. So I started writing.
How old were you?
8.
You
Maybe
started
7.
writing at 8?
Yeah. I have poems that I used to write when I was like 8. Maybe it was this like, I can't be an actress. My parents won't let me. And I don't know. But, so I started writing stories and poems. And then the next thing that was available to me, which was tangible, was the theatre. So then I started to act. So I would write and act in theatre when I could, whether it was school or outside of school. And then I continued acting and theatre and writing and doing everything drama until I was about 15 or 16.
But you're so young. You have the sense already of what you want to do.
I knew exactly what I wanted. Yeah.
Was there something that influenced you, that got you?
Nothing. I don't think there was anything that influenced or got me. I mean, my mum used to play the movie Thriller a lot, which is Michael Jackson.
Okay.
When she wanted me to sit in one place, she would play that so that I don't move.
Pay attention for the next 20
scared.
minutes.
I was too scared to move. No, I can't really say that there was anything besides the love of stories that really made me go into wanting to tell a story as a storyteller and earlier on in my life as an actress.
At a stage in your life, you were reading 6 or 7 books a week.
Yeah, that stage okay, so that was, I read Lord of the Rings at the school library when I was, I think, 11.
Okay.
And some of Harry Potter, not all of it. So I would just read and read and read. So I would go to the library, borrow 7 books, read them over a week or 2, and then go back, give those 7, because you were only allowed to borrow 7 at a time. So
that's the only reason you were limited to 7.
I was limited
I would have taken more if I could.
Oh yeah, I just loved going into, I mean, apart from the documentary, which was actually my first ever documentary, and I'm very grateful that the BBC took it up. I'm a fiction writer and fiction storyteller. I love science fiction and things that really go beyond, and I guess in a way, that's where the spirituality comes in for me as well, because in my mind, I can see things in a very different way. And that's why science fiction, as a tangible demonstration of that, works.
And were you influenced when you think of it as a
But
creative person today by the books that you were reading at a young age?
yeah, yeah, but I think it can go either way. It's kind of like, is it nature or nurture? For me, I remember one of the first books I ever bought was a UFO book.
Okay.
And this was, again, when I was quite young. And then the next book I bought was an astrology book. Again, probably under 10. So, I was going that
You
way,
had the
that
natural
direction,
gravitation.
yeah, towards it. And I guess the thing that really inspired me to make this documentary and what pushed me towards this genre, because this was not a genre that I really felt that I was going to ever partake in or be a documentary filmmaker, was that this story was bigger than fiction. It was more fiction than fiction.
Mm-hmm.
No fiction story could have matched what I found, and I couldn't recreate it. I didn't want to recreate it. Those people deserved to sit in front of the camera and say what they wanted to say. And the girl who dies, the protagonist in my film who dies, deserved to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in that light. I'm sure she was a much more interesting person than the girl who was stoned to death. But she was deserved. It was deserving. And honestly, to make a documentary, to make a film is difficult. Anyway, anyone who makes a film, even a flop, should really win an award, because making a film from the time you have the idea or the script is given to you to the time that it's actually seen by an audience should just win an award for just finishing that film, because it's very
It's hard work. It's a lot to it. I guess one of the things I'd really be interested in, you do a lot of interviews. We'll put all the show notes, to the documentary and all the work that you're doing as well on the YouTube channel and the podcast. But what I want to do is I want to go through your thinking process, how you think things through, your decision-making process, what makes you tick.
I wish
Because,
I could.
honest answers like that. Obviously, at 8 you start going, okay, cool, I want to write poems. This is what I want to do. And in a sense, find something that you gravitate to, and you're fortunate enough to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So I guess, has it been an easy road?
No. So I guess if to go back to that story, then from theatre, I had my first directorial experience at 17. So when I was 17, I got to direct a Shakespeare play or part of, and that was the first time I felt that I really gave birth to something. It was immaculate. It was the most horrifying and blissful experience.
Why horrifying?
Because once the lights go up, then you have no control anymore. Okay. In a theatre play, as the director goes, move over there. It's there. Everything you've done comes up to this moment, and from this moment onwards, you're dead. Death of the artist, death of the author. So then it has a life of its own, even though you are the owner of it, even though you are the creator of it. I guess not the owner, but the creator of it. So then, from that, I always thought that I would be in films, but as an actress. And when I realized that I really loved writing and directing and creating these worlds and drawing the audience in as shouldn't say just an actress, but not a part of the story, but as someone who can really put the story together. Mm-hmm. Again, goes back to my love for stories from a young age. And a lot of girls, a lot of kids play Barbies, but for me, those Barbies were a set. And those were stories that I was creating.
Yeah.
And even if, my parents always used to say you were the best kid because you'd sit in a corner and entertain yourself. They'd give me a piece of string or 2 pieces of string and I'd pretend they're people talking to each other. Or, so for me, when I go back to the Barbie playing and why I loved it till I was like 11 or 12, and that's way past beyond the girls' age.
They weren't just Barbie dolls.
It was a set. It was a play or a movie.
Mm. What does it mean to you and what have you done? And the reason I ask for it, because if people don't know you, and I'm hoping that aspiring artists, performers, writers, creatives, directors, producers, whoever they may be, could perhaps look at you as an inspiration, or if they'd like to follow footsteps, or perhaps hearing your story, be courageous enough to go and live their story. and for them to realize that it's not just all handed to you. Let's say, okay, at 8 you found your thing of wanting to write. You have that opportunity to write poems. You're creating stories, and that's really you gravitating naturally to what you love to do. But I want to emphasize that aspect that it hasn't been handed to you. So tell us about the fly on the wall experience.
Okay, so you're really good at this, by the way.
Thank you.
We should make a show of this.
Thank you.
With proper cameras. I'm serious.
Thank you.
No,
I'd like it. Thank you. So fly on the wall.
Count me in when you.
No, I'm just only good at this part. Like if someone else, like if he didn't say I'm going to help you out for this podcast, I would have never happened because it hasn't happened for 5 years.
No. But I'm saying you're good at the interviewing. You're good at. Good at getting people. You're good at getting the best out of people.
Thank
that
you.
way. And I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. I just didn't want it to be.
How did I come up with that whole vacuum cleaner story?
Yeah.
Because we worked together.
Yeah, it was cool, huh?
See? Yeah. Okay. Fly on the wall. Fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so there came a point in my life where I realized that my love for telling stories and creating these worlds that I could really study the human condition and explore situations from a perspective that was really visual and oral, obviously, and make people think, was beyond something I could do as an actress. Not beyond, but acting was part of the story, I realized for me. I still love it, but it's just, the other side has taken over so much that I don't have time even. So anyway, so then came the time that I wanted to transition from being someone in front of the camera to someone behind the camera who tell these stories. And so I was still writing, directing, and acting in theatre and short films. But I realized that to gain something, I had to give something up. And what I had to give up was the big auditions for big acting roles.
To gain something, I have to give something up. You were conscious of this? Or now that you look back?
I wasn't conscious necessarily, but it was something that I did. It's like a survival instinct.
You kind of had clarity. If I want this, I won't be able to do this.
Yeah, but I didn't consciously say to myself, I'm going to give up these big acting roles so that I can go and be an extra.
How did it happen?
So I said to my agent, who was a great agent, I forgot what they were called, but I said to her that, can you get me on as an extra on as many shoots as possible? And she said, extra. She said, is that because you're short of money, you need more money? Or what? I said, no, it's not just money, because at that time you're studying, so you do want to make money. But I said, no, I just want to get on the bigger sets without having to go through this auditioning process, which is going to maybe take months or weeks. I just want to get on there and I just want to watch and I just want to see how things are done. Bear in mind, I had no one in my family who did this. I don't.
So no contacts.
No contacts, no friends in the industry, no one. So I had to find the fastest way to experience it. It wasn't even to go and get seen. A lot of people go as extras or as actresses or actors or whatever to get seen.
Yeah.
It was more to see. So that's where the idea of the fly on the wall comes. So I would be writing and directing theatre and studying at uni and working my part-time job at a fitness club or whatever. But at the same time, I would then get hired to go on these big sets, eat great food, because they always had these massive buffets. They always had
perks of the job.
Yeah. Every time I came back, the agent was like, so how was that shoot? I was like, breakfast was amazing. And, just sit there and watch and learn, talk to everybody, and I was that extra who was probably just friends with the whole crew. Probably the only people I didn't get to talk to were the producer and the director, because they were, but I would go and I would ask questions and I would say, what's this camera? And how do you do this? And I would watch the lighting guys and I would watch the actors and I would watch the whole, the way that the director would, so I would watch. Directing came very naturally to me because I was always telling stories.
But you making that decision to be an extra,
Yeah,
Did
it was
it
weird
seem-
for everybody.
Well, okay, I'm just gonna.
People
did
didn't
it-
understand it.
They're like, why are you going backwards?
Yeah.
Why?
I remember people
What
even
are you
on
doing?
set, they were like, oh, so you direct full time and you're an extra part time? And I was like, exactly. Because I was hungry. I was so hungry.
It was a decision based on I want to learn this.
Yeah, but you know, it wasn't. I wasn't like A, B, C. It was kind of like, I'm hungry. I'm going to go to the fridge and find something to eat.
Simple as that.
So I was hungry. I wanted to learn. I wanted to see. I wanted to experience. And I realized my fight in that sense was not the acting fight. It was not to be the next best lead actress or something. Although that is still a possibility. You never know.
That's true.
But it was really to be able to understand this world, the mechanics of how a real film crew worked. To me, like a clockwork. It was beautiful. Everybody knew what they were doing at the right time. It was just, I felt like I was in heaven. The first time I walked onto a film set, I felt like I was on heaven, in heaven. This is it. This is what's been missing in my life. This is it. And so I went from, you know, these big, massive productions for, you know, big brands as commercials, or I would act in films, feature films, or series where I was an ongoing extra. So I, you know, to then finally doing a course at a place called Australia Film Base. And then I was offered a job after I finished my course there to teach filmmaking. So I made my first film there, and it won a lot of awards.
Your first film.
My first film, yeah. And that's why when I went onto set and I was directing, and I had written, produced, directed, and was the lead actress of this film. And
Ta-da! All
Yeah.
done by Pega.
yeah.
You're welcome.
And it was kind of part edited by me as well. That's where I learned how to edit film as well. But then the owner or the tutor or whatever, he offered me a job there to help other students. And that was a really pivotal point for me, because I realized, without being conscious of this, again, none of this was conscious, but it kind of just led from one thing to another. I was unemployed for a while before that, and I was just depressed and not knowing which way to go, because the thing is, I finished university, I still didn't know anyone really in the industry, and I went on a 6-month trip and came back, and everybody had already, you know, got their full-time jobs and all of this. And so I made the decision, let me go and try this. And I had been collecting the brochures for a while. And one day I just said, let me go and try this. And that's when I realized all of my thoughts, writings, and you know, I was working a job, actually, I got a job around at the same time, and I wrote the whole script at the job, and I cast all the actors from the job as well. So everyone, pretty much 99%, 98% of the actresses and actors were from my work. And it happened to be a great film, and for the time...
It seems like you have it, whether you realize it or not. You're resourceful with what you have. You make the most of what you can.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and I guess I realized that I was like that from a young age as well. From learning how to recycle.
98% of the people, hey, where's the closest surrounding? My work. Here you go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cast these guys who are around me.
And naturally, I see people as characters as well. You know, like I look at you and I think, wow, he could be a mad scientist in a film. You know what I mean? I
Best
sometimes...
backhanded compliment I got today.
I'm sorry, most people would take that as a real compliment. People say that to me too. So then I was teaching filmmaking, and so that's the fly in the wall story. And then I was kind of, you know, helping other filmmakers realize their dreams, whether they were 60 or 10, 15, 20, you know. And we were making about probably 20, 25 short films a year, apart from other things. So what I would do then, so this person, his name is Colin, Irish person, he realized that I have this hunger, and I was just, basically I was glued to this man. I was like, okay, what are you doing next? He said, I'm shooting a documentary. I'll be your gaffer, I'll be your camera guy, I'll be the whoever you want. We would go, and anything that he did, I was his right hand for everything. Whether it was assistant, whether it was camera, whether it was lighting, whether it was acting, whether it was anything that I could be on a film set, I would be. And I guess my first behind the camera job,
It sounds like you didn't give him an option.
I think he really loved it, and he told me that I've been doing this for about 25 years and you are the best student I've ever had.
Your enthusiasm.
My talent, according to him.
Yeah.
He said, you're a filmmaker.
Yes.
When you came to this class, I didn't know that at the time.
But I think your hunger is that foot in the door for them to realize your skill.
Yeah.
From what it seems like.
Possibly, yeah. And it's really because, when you make a film, it's not like you're writing a story or you're writing a song. You really need other people to come with you on this journey. And the people who do it, I think, successfully, and whenever I've done it successfully,